Bambi was released in 1942 by Walt Disney Animation and is their fifth theatrically released animated film of all time, and is based off of the novel of the same name that follows the story of the white-tailed deer Bambi as it chronicles his life from childhood to adulthood. Guys, I have been extremely looking forward to talking about this film on this channel. This is going to be a kind of different review than I normally do because I'm mostly going to be talking about how important this film is to me. And we will be going into the film in some detail, but I want to talk about this film in particular because it is the next Disney film to talk about on this channel. But also, this is probably going to be the most important film I ever review on this channel. This is one of my favorite animated films of all time and one of my favorite films of all time. And it's deeply personal for me because I love movies like Alexander, which is my favorite movie of all time. I love Inception, which really got me into loving the craft of filmmaking and wanting to be a filmmaker myself. And also something like Lord of the Rings, which really inspired me at an early age. And I'll be reviewing those eventually sometime on this channel. But Bambi is really important to me because, as far as I know, it was the first film I ever watched. And it left an impact that has never gone away. I constantly think about this film from childhood to adulthood, and it has stayed with me and has been super inspiring. Now, I used to watch this film all the time as a kid. When it came to the movies that I watched, it was this, Pinocchio, Tarzan, The Rescuers, and a few more like those, like Toy Story and Toy Story 2. But Bambi really stood apart from the rest. It was the one I watched the most, and I remember specifically, and I wish I had gotten it out for this review, I used to have this little, those children's golden books. I had a version of Bambi, and my mom and dad would read that to me all the time, and eventually I would read it myself. And I knew the story in that golden book so well that I was able to memorize all the words and tell the story of Bambi. And it was something that, we would be at somebody's house or something, and I would tell the story of Bambi, and I would just reiterate what I had read and what I had been told. And my parents have always been upset that they never recorded me actually doing this, but this was something that really stuck with me. However, as I got a little bit older, I stopped watching Bambi. Even though it did stick with me, I just didn't watch it as much. I didn't want to dig out the VHS player to watch it, but there was this one time, a few years back in 2018, I went to Disney World for the very first time, and it was going to be a long trip, so I decided I was going to watch all of the theatrically released animated Disney films that I could. And so I watched Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and then I got to Bambi. And it was just such an emotional experience revisiting that film, even on my tiny iPhone screen. I was really taken back to that time as a child when I would watch this film, and there were images that were just burned into my brain, songs that I remembered from when I used to watch this as a kid, and it was just extremely emotional. And since then, I have made it my job to watch this movie as often as I can. Last year, in fact, I reviewed it, or talked about it at least, when I did my Disney animated ranking videos. And every time I watch it, I love it even more. It's an emotional experience for me that reminds me of the innocence of childhood and just gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling when watching it. And I can't watch this film and not cry. There are so many images that bring a tear to my eye. The images, the music, the story, the characters, the experience itself. And it's something that is never going to leave me. This is one of the most important films to me, if not the most important film, because it is the first film that I remember ever seeing. So let me talk a little bit about the film itself. Now, Disney, when it came to animating this film, I think this was originally at one point going to be his second film before they ended up doing Pinocchio, but the animation in this film is absolutely stunning when it comes to just how beautiful the backdrops are and the fluent animation of the animated animals. Now, they did animated animals in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and those are absolutely stunning. But these move a little bit more realistically to how animals are supposed to move and also are, more accurate proportion wise. In fact, they had animals brought into the studio for the animators to kind of study and draw and animate, and that's how we got a lot of the great fluid movement that is in this film. And the animation is really the star of the show in this film, and also the music. Love is a Song That Never Ends is one of my favorite songs in a movie ever. I mean, I love the iconicness of When You Wish Upon a Star in Pinocchio. I love it so much, but this song in particular means just so much more to me. It reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me the multiple times I would sit down and watch this film and rewind the film to rewatch it again and again and again. And it is wonderful. But also, I really love the characters. Bambi is a very simple movie. Now, the characters aren't particularly groundbreaking or deep or anything, but they are extremely likable with wonderful voice acting from the actor that plays Bambi to Thumper to Flower to the Great Prince of the Forest himself, which is a very commanding performance as well. All these characters are so likable and memorable. They have their own little quirks that make them extremely memorable and likable. I also like that the movie really doesn't have much in terms of a plot. It's a very thin plot. You are mostly here watching different scenarios as Bambi kind of grows up and learns more about the forest around him, learns more about the environment, the deer, the other animals that are in this kind of ecosystem together. And it is really, really well done. And I don't think you need this grand plot or anything to tell such a wonderful story that is very simple to understand and also has a lot of things to talk about, such as with, hunting. There's a lot of things to do with environmentalism, especially with the forest fire that's at the end of this film. And it is so well done. But also, the film is really funny. Thumper in particular is just such a likable character, and I could quote this character any day of the month. It's just so he's so likable, he's so fun, and I love the camaraderie between Bambi, Thumper, and Flower. These characters are so likable. But also, I love the relationship between Bambi and his mother. It's a very loving relationship. And when she finally passes away, you really feel the weight of this on this tiny little deer. And one of my favorite moments in the movie is when the great prince of the forest comes to him and he's like, your mother can't be with you anymore. And he calls him his son, which is the first time he says it in the movie, and it's so impactful. And it's made even more impactful when they meet up once again at the climax of the film, especially at the very end of the film with that final shot that is absolutely beautiful as Bambi and the great prince of the forest stand atop this hill looking down on Feline and the newborns, and the great prince of the forest kind of walks off as if Bambi is now the protector of the forest now. This is his destiny. And it's so well done. From the music, to the animation, to the characters, to the messages. All of it is super, super simple, but very impactful. Now, I know there's some people that may be like, the movie's a little too simple, maybe. Maybe they can't get into the characters. Maybe they need a little bit more. But this is just a deeply personal film to me. And it's something that has never left me, and it never will. This is one of my favorite animated films of all time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm so, so glad I got to share this film with you guys and talk about it, because this has been something I've been meaning to discuss for a very, very long time. So anyway, guys, with all that said, I'm going to give Bambi a 10 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And stay positive.